Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining us. We may have a guest this week, and I'm out. Actually, got a late. I woke up late, so I had to go to Amazon late. So I'm kind of somewhat out and about, but not really, right? To, this week is a Seven of Hearts. And the Seven of Hearts actually have a Five of Spades Venus, which is actually traveling. Excuse me. Um, thank you. Which is actually traveling. So that's what I was kind of doing, right? So yeah, that was me as a kid, right? Seven of Hearts. It's love, family, and it also has to do with children and kids. I think as well, and taking care of people, taking care of children, and being a sacrifice. It's not saying they'll go into those things automatically, but they actually have a Jack of Hearts. So there's somewhat of a sacrifice, which the Seven of Hearts isn't probably the best person when it comes to sacrificing themselves for others. They tend to have a lot of boundaries a lot of times, and I actually made a huge mistake this week. Wasn't necessarily trying to give anyone advice, but I was speaking with that particular energy, and we are speaking along the lines of helping other people. Um, once I made a post about that, she was an open book, but you failed to read it, right? So this is one of those things where I failed to really look at the card before I suggest something. And really wasn't even a suggestion, it was a question. If you look, the Seven of Hearts is prone to suspicion of jealousy, betrayal, and all those things. So they guard themselves really well a lot of times because they don't like a certain type of attitude. They have a Two of Hearts Uranus. A lot of times they need an advisor or someone around to kind of help them out with their own personal emotions. So they cling to or seek others' advice and opinions sometimes as well. You know, so with that energy, you have to be careful about what you say and speak, especially if you're in a relationship with this energy. Not saying I'm like in a relationship with this person or this energy, but overall, when you're close or have a friendship, people tend to take certain things that you say to heart, and it is one of those cards that is subject to emotional extremes as well. You know, Seven.
Seven.
I always
I would
say
say
that's a
there's a
pendulum.
pendulum.
Hey, Madeline, how you
How you
doing?
doing?
Hi, Sean. I'm good, hon. How are you?
Doing pretty
Doing
good.
pretty good.
What did you say was the card of emotional extremes? I must be in
The
it.
Seven of Hearts.
The Seven of Hearts.
Oh my gosh, you're all alone talking about the Seven of Hearts, your card.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
classroom of the Seven of Hearts and Rashad. So what were you saying? Like they can be an emotionally intense card.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's an.
that's an.
I don't
I
know.
don't
Is
know.
it
Is
like
it like
a, is it
is it
what
what
device?
device?
Laptop?
Laptop?
I'm on a
Like
laptop, yeah.
oh, okay.
Um,
It that seems to be like a playback. I'm trying to think if you go to volume control. I can't. I'm trying to think like an IT person. I don't know. She's like, all right, I'm out of here. It's not necessarily. I don't know if you did
did
that.
that.
I did. I thought maybe there was two of me. I thought maybe I clicked it twice or something. So I was trying to close up one, and it closed up that one. I was just because I saw myself down the bottom. So
You, I
I
don't
I
can
want.
try
want
it on my phone. Want me to do it a different way and see what happens?
Yeah, I know when you go to volume control, you can click on the settings, and sometimes they have two playbacks. Like it may be your computer playing, and then also the web browser playing. A lot of times, so that could be the issue. But yeah, it does work better when you're on mute. I know sometimes that may stop the flow of the conversation, but not necessarily. Just depends. um, But yeah, so when you go on the computer in the bottom right hand side, if you right click it, it'll probably have like two playback volumes on the computer. But yeah, try your phone to see if that works better as far as the playback and the echo. So yeah, and looking at the law of extremes, and one thing I think which pushes the sevens as far as that law of extremes is trying to become a better you, and going to to the elevation of from a spiritual sense of higher values and thinking on the mundane level. So that fight between thinking or trying to be this person that hold themselves to a high standard, to high values, but then also there's this essence of mundaneness that could be lingering around, maybe between you, or it could be you or a person. There's like this self-reflection, and trying to escape. I think I'm talking about escape because it has the five of spades, right? Mercury, so escapism, but trying to escape a certain type of environment, and that I think that's very important as well, um, with it, leaving a certain type of environment or elevating to a higher self of personal self awareness. I think happens. So during that travel, there's you're battling yourself, your own personal insecurities, your own personal timidness, your own personal being vulnerable. And when you are vulnerable, I think I the definition of being vulnerable is being open, and maybe opening yourself up to um, the judgment of others as well.
Is it any better?
Yeah. Well, let me speak. Yeah, that's better.
I got my headset and I'm ready to be live on YouTube. So, Six of Hearts to Seven of Hearts, and what I'm hearing you say is the emotional maturity that is in the classroom of the Seven of Hearts, because there's a depth and an intensity to that energy, and the ability to be vulnerable and communicate is a big part of what helps them relate and then not grow more insecurities.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so with that is personal self development, as you said, like being vulnerable, and being open to criticism or their own personal um, self destruction, and, and being open to take advice, and not letting the judgment of others kind of bring you down or feel like you moving backwards, or those type of things. Because I think we're all self critical. I always say that the sevens are a mirror. You know, it's always a lot of times a self-reflection. There could be projection that is associated with that card as well. Projecting your own personal thoughts and opinions and feelings onto other people, all because you it's not coming. You may want to say it's not coming from you personally. So you project and tell people what they do or shouldn't do, or what they're saying, and how it affects you. Like you said, when you open yourself to communicating your feelings and your emotions, you're open to you're vulnerable.
Well, I'll bring in what I got on that. I have been very aware and in my reflection tracking my Six of Hearts their first 13 years. And then when it came time to show up in an experience, I was so aware of how many things I didn't experience when I was younger that kind of kept me from knowing how to do stuff. So I've shared that both my parents are jacks, and certainly they know how to be social and run the game, but usually it was with a couple of drinks in them, you know?
Hmm.
And when it was just them, they were really socially awkward, right? So my mom still lives somewhat reclusive, and my dad wouldn't really go out unless he had all the money and he could be top dog and be paying for everybody and kind of have an established. right? So, and no judgment. I love them. They taught me everything. I'm not mad at them.
And what
But
was their cards again?
they're both Jack of Clubs.
Both
They're born
Jack.
the same day, 15 years apart. So, so it was really interesting to notice those insecurities or those judgments I might have on myself, because I can see other people able to navigate things kind of easily and more, playfully. And I instead kind of had a little bit of a like step in, step out, kind of like, and it's just because it was new. And I'm so conscious of my intensity, my size, my presence, my voice. And when others are having a space, and this, maybe I'm full of shit, maybe not, but like when I come in, right? Even if I don't even talk, even if I just sit in the corner, it's very evident that I came in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel so sensitive to changing the space for others. So I've been really tracking my 6 of hearts to 7 of hearts. Like, what's the insecurity that you picked up in the six that makes you not want to like go for it all the way in your seven so you can live that eight in your cosmic lesson? And partly it's not having the skills to do it, and seeing how they both would kind of like dominate a space to get comfortable, right? And I'd like so much to be in a space and not dominate. I'd like to just be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just been in my awareness. You know me. I'm always in the reflection and the looking at how the energies are working. You know how I play, Rashad. Hello, Will. Nice to see you. I don't know if I can say
I
what I was just trying to say again because I was circular.
yeah, I'm off and on the mute because I know how from last week it was. Hi, uh, Madeline, Rashad, what's up? How y'all doing?
Hey, you're doing pretty good, Will. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm just adjusting to the shift. I had actually, be honest, I thought it was going to be PM, so I was doing another shift on it, so I had to go back and forth. So the my apologies. I'm going to just a little take it the from the fly here and just go from there. I just actually heard the tail part of what Madeline was discussing with the flowing energy, and it's interesting. I just wanted to say, if I may, if anybody else has any, do you guys have anything else to input? I just was reserved that. I meant to bring my notepad, but I brought this one here, so.
What'd you want to say?
Well, okay. What I wanted to say, I was to say very appreciative. I wanted to, for the people that liked the video for what we did last week, and also for the people who subscribed. This time I should have the full channel for my YouTube. And that's basically, I really appreciate that. And if people like what they see, please like. It improves the channel, accessibility and promotion, as well as all of us, those who have their channels. If you have another one or so forth, that would be great too. And that would be my short intake, or outtake rather.
No, you fine. No, yeah, most definitely appreciate everyone, for joining us and taking heed and subscribing to Will's channel. There's a lot of great information over there. So definitely love to have you back and appreciate your efforts and your studies and your reflections from last week as well. Speaking of reflections, your 6 of hearts, and of course Madeline was just reflecting on her childhood and embracing how she shows up and right, and as far as in spaces in the way that you could be somewhat subtle or well, not subtle, right? I guess very much so presence present, and having this I guess this the showmanship, taking over a space somewhat. But sixes is about the reflection and taking responsibility of your emotions and the things you say or you do. And like someone else was saying, the six of hearts is the seven of hearts reward card, you know. And Madeline, that is your Mercury card, correct?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was off. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mercury card, I believe, is the King of Diamonds. The Six of Hearts is my Mercury card.
Yeah, so it is the law of love. It's about what you learn, of course, like I was saying earlier, or last week, Will is the Six of Hearts is very proficient. And actually, what Gina was saying as well, they all have clubs in their Mercury. So I think that reflection and studying your surroundings and how people made you feel, and the way that you make other people feel and taking that responsibility, is very important. Like you said, taking that responsibility, how you make other people feel. A feeling also goes into your thoughts. If you look at the spiritual spread, all the hearts transforms into clubs. So our emotions very much so affect the way that we think, the way we speak, and like you were saying, the way that we communicate, the way that we show up in a certain type of space. It's all about the hearts, and taking on that responsibility and knowing that you have somewhat of a control. It can be somewhat manipulative as well, using that charm, as the lecture lady was saying.
Are you telling me I'm manipulative, Rashawn?
I mean, I think the power of the hearts is to
No.
use use a gift of
My
gab.
personality does, I think I've said it, not here, but one of the hardest parts of being me is that most people want to give me what I want all the time. And I'm like, wait a minute, let's make sure it's the best for everybody and what you all need too. Because it just being what I want, that gets old. So I agree, though. I certainly do have a way that people want to listen when I talk, and it can be manipulative. And I guess that's really what I'm looking at, is not wanting to play my card from the insecurities of my Jack parents, believing that they had to be dominant or one up or have the money in their pocket, but really just bring the most innocent version of me. Like, my activism that I've decided is going to be mine in my 60s is I want to be an activist for innocence. I want to call innocence back into people's lives and relationships, because we've all been programmed and imitated things that may not be our coolest version. But inside me, there's an innocence and a part and a gift that I'm here to bring. Like, there's a unique purpose that is mine. And if I'm in some type of bound up insecurity narrative that says mine's broken or you don't love me or whatever crap, then I don't get to bring my gifts through. So I really want to activate innocence in conversations. And that is vulnerability and just being true. I think that's why my favorite people to talk to are kids between 4 and 7. They just are so honest. It's great.
Mm-hmm. No, that goes into the seven of hearts as well, because there is sometimes insecurities. You were talking about going from the sixes to the seven to the eights. So it always says when those seven of hearts has those insecurities and those doubts and fears uprooted, is able to live a freer life. Is able to use their social charm and not stand, because I can say the same thing. I have a six of hearts that kind of challenges me. And for you, it is like your childhood, and I think it's for me, it's something I have to work with all my life, and really looking at the way that I show up and looking at the and reflect upon, as much as I want other people to love me, I have to make sure that I'm taking responsibility of how I show up as well, within the relationship. Because you're only going to get as much as what you sow. You reap what you sow, right? Especially with the sixes, has those twos, as Will was saying, and the six of diamonds and Saturn. So it's all about your values, the things that you're working on, the things and how you show up. Um, within your relationships.
I want to stretch it a little bit further out before I give up the topic. Another part that I've noticed is becoming older and, being somewhat of a resource at a certain level, right? Because I've had experiences and I was a therapist and yada yada, right? I have kids, I have grandchildren. I was in a podcast yesterday and we were talking about, she was referring to me as a resource, and she shared this quote, and I'm going to chop it up, so if anybody knows it better, correct me, but it was basically like part of a job of the resource is to maintain the resource well, so that you don't create thieves, right? Because when there's a resource around, people will keep taking from the resource, and unless the resource says when you can and can't take, or what's available or not available, and that over sacrifice that can come with the seven, where that more stoic nature that I don't know if it's my nature to be stoic, but I definitely learned from people that, tuck up your emotions and stand tall and don't let anybody know that they got you, kind of stuff. So people may not know that I'm, giving more than I want to give. And oftentimes in my relationships, people will take more than they give back. And I guess it's because I seem so rich, and I am really rich. I have everything, but it's important that my resource be well taken care of by me, right? I take care of my resource, because otherwise I don't have a resource. Otherwise I become some sour note, some bitter pill. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I need to see my value and recognize that the resource needs to have time that you come in and time that you go out and time that it has alone to refill itself, because, and I'm not saying we're all not resources. I'm just suggesting that language came into play, and I consider that. And I also went over to your page, Will, and I subscribed, and I love the stuff about the elements, and I'm looking forward to getting smarter around you.
Well, thank you so much. I just wanted to add to since we're on the principle of the seven of hearts, and it's like you say, they are like, and I'm going to draw from the elements from Robert Camp books, first one and second one. And the first one is the cards of your destiny, second one, love cards. And when I'm looking at any card, I'm going to look at primarily through the numbers of how they sequential, how they're coming. So in other words, we have a double nine in the seven of hearts, and actually a double seven if you include the seven of hearts. And there's four examples or birth dates in the hearts. And relatively why I try to use that, because since we're in the line or progression of hearts, and it's broken down, if we have to tally up the numbers of dates in the calendar, which is primarily important too, because the seven, and I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but primarily there's only 52 days in a year that has the hearts to come up. And there are 49 less in spades. And then there's 133 in clubs. And then it's 131, so forth. And clubs mean spades and hearts. What's my other one? Embarrassed kid.
31, 31, 52, and 49, spades, clubs, diamonds, and hearts.
Diamonds, my bad. Diamonds, my bad. Diamonds, it's 131 days. So reference to this, and Camp, and so many, viewpoint and gems that he drops in there. So, I mean, and of course, it doesn't go, and I'm going to add a little bit, just a teeny little bit from the Mystic Text book on that too as well. And there's another one, symbolism. But now going back, referring to the seven, and what he brought out, I thought it profoundly affected, viewpoint looking at it. And if you look at the structures, I'm talking about the structure of these solar spreads, and all solar spreads, they have this formation. The formation, if you look at this, 7 planets that they use, they start with Mercury, then they go with Venus, then Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn, then Uranus, then Neptune, 7, right? So you go across the same orders, go the same way, so it starts off with the Mercury column, and then it goes off with the Venus column and the Mars column and the Jupiter column, and then the Saturn and Uranus and then Neptune. So it's a fractal, if you want, 7 by 7, which will give you 49. And interesting to note, that corresponds to the 49 days in the year, in the year that spades show up. And then you add the other 3 on the top, which is, the King of Spades, and then you 8 of Diamonds and the 10 of Clubs. So with those in card, you have the actual 52. Now there is the ratio without, of course, we do have the Joker. But interesting note, and not for today, but that is another interesting tidbit of historically how essentially these things formulate, because I try to look as far as the historical reference as far as going into the cards and significantly. So bringing it back to home to the 7 heart, and I'm using this in general with hearts, but not exclusively to the hearts, meaning that when you're looking at hearts, I do actually look at it from a point of attachments in psychology and how they attach to certain ones and security. So with the 7, there's powerful connection, because again, as you well put, Bashar, how their Mercury card, the 7 of Diamonds, which is part of the 7 other, I call them squares. I don't call, square this and square that, meaning that planet lines up horizontally with the column and vertically with the column, horizontally with the row. So the 7 of them in there too is another thing, and it runs in a diagonally, which means it goes from one corner from the low. You can look from the higher corner of the right side down to the lower left side. So it starts off, you'll see the pattern. I'll start from the bottom, the Queen of Hearts. That's Neptune line, Neptune column. Then the next one would be the King of Clubs, which is Uranus column and Uranus row. Then the next one would be the 9 of Hearts, which is interesting because that's a double Saturn. And we had this talk about last week about the Saturn emphasis. So for those who are not, they can look at last week's on the 6th house, and we're touched based on certain elements of Saturn and how you can unpack that astrologically too as well. And then you go into the next one, which would be the 10 of Diamonds, which is Jupiter row and Jupiter column. Then the next one is 6 of Hearts, which is the same sequence, Mars column and Mars row. Then the next one would be the double Venus, which is in the Venus column and the Venus row. And lastly, but not least, the 3 of Hearts, which is a Mercury row and Mercury column. And I say this into all this, that how I would use this in a way of planetary elements and combining the cards. So the case in point, when you think of 7 of Hearts, and we do talk about that in any, perspective, and you're looking about hearts and relationships and how they can meet. And I'll give you an example that, when they use the 7 of Diamonds, the Millionaire card, which is a double Venus or Venus squared, and it's attraction to money or finance, but it's also about value. So famous 7 of Hearts is Bill Gates. So for those who's here and look at his wealth accumulation, he's not even, and then I think we may have to upgrade and change from millionaire to billionaire status, because now it's more common to have the, oh, thanks. I didn't even notice. I'm looking into the stars. Thanks, Rashad, for this bringing that out so you can pinpoint that and start to manifest that. Now, when I look at the patterns of the cards and the 7 of Hearts, right? And you're looking at 2 7s, and the 3 or the 4 7 of Hearts is in the first one starts in September 30th. and that's a Venus or 3 numerically. And I encourage those who haven't have any points of reference or resource, like Madeline refers to. Lloyd Strayhorn books, Numbers in You, excellent. Um, there is another one, and this one is I personally know. The author, his name is Ed Peterson, and it's Numerology. It can be accessible, brilliant book too. Well, and the next one would be referred to is I'm going to say Divine Triangle by Faith Tervain and Dusty Bunker. All those three is good resources. This things to just go and do further research and just for your own reference in library preference or whatever. And this accumulates this when you're looking at the numerical seven in reference to, we're going to say, using from camp is the middle ground there, but between 1 and 13. And the 1 and 13 is from the ace to the last card. The highest one is the king, the 13th card in any deck. Suit, you would have those 13 cards to complete. Of course, we are not excluding the Joker. So when I'm looking at that and I'm looking at the pattern of their Mercury card, and we're using that for the first really 13 years, which is from 0 to 12, including, so people may think it's 13th, but it's about 0 to 12. And I see the point of when it's diamonds. So it's values of diamonds, 1, and 7 is a spiritual number. And also Camp puts it in that way, the order. 9s is like 2 spiritual numbers. Now, whether you may want to agree with it and disagree, I understand. But I'm just using this for point of reference. And 7s have that spiritual point, or when they incarnate, because I am a big, proponent of reincarnation, past lives, and guides in your life. So when a 7 comes and lands, even in your yearly or your weekly or daily, and even if it's like in your weekly and you see it as a Jupiter card, you actually see a lot of blessings. Now, be insightful about that, because when I'm saying blessings, you're seeing something that you may not normally see. So it may take you out of your comfort zone or not. And those who by that may be stringent on certain things of being, this is what the real deal is, reality. We're thinking out of the box with the 7. And I think I'll stop there, I guess, and let y'all continue whatever you want to do. That's just my little point there, my 3 cents.
Mm-hmm. No, you're fine. Because as far as like values, right? So Madeline is the king of diamonds, right? So when we're talking about a focus of values, and extracting values, where does it really lie in? It is in that Venus column, And I was speaking earlier, if you look at the spiritual spread, the heart side go from Mercury and it transforms into the Venus line, So emotions, values, extracting that resource, and what is that resource, and what does it really mean, and what is the value behind it? As someone was saying, the 7 of diamonds, is a 7 of diamonds, and 9 of hearts is a double card, or a semi-fixed card, right? That flips from the 7 of diamonds 1 year to the 9 of hearts. So it can be very bipolar, right? Caught between the emotions and the things that it's attached to. And I think we all are attached to sometimes physical product, or what we may create, whatever it is that we desire. I think with diamonds, there's a factor of desire, and that desire can be between just anything that you want in the world. That's why I always say diamonds is, some people reference it to liquid, and some people reference the hearts as liquid, so I can see how both of those can be somewhat, symbolic, because diamonds, your values change, it take forms into whatever you want out in this world. And the king of diamonds is a massive resources, right? It's something that it's something that someone has, something that someone got, a particular talent, wherever it may be, or a resource, So when it comes to resources and what we truly want, there is a fixation between the seven diamonds and the nine of hearts. You know, nine of hearts is also what a wishful thinking card as well. You know, what do we really hope for? What do we really wish for? Right? We all want love, right? We all want. There's a certain amount of attachment of love, and giving love is something that we want. So it's very important to make that reflection, and make sure that there's you see the relationship between the hearts and the diamonds, and the value that is being created, or the resources that's being created, as Madeline was speaking about her resources and what she have and people using her, you know, and of course what I flipped to, and you mentioned you start out with the Queen of Hearts, which I think is very important as well, because the Queen of Hearts is the mother of mothers, and she transforms into the Seven of Diamonds, right? So you have this Lady of Love. I always call the Queen of Hearts Mother Teresa. Some people may call the Queen of Clubs Mother Teresa as well. But I say that because there's a sacrifice for people. You know, there's a sacrifice because there's people in need. And as I said, resources. There's something that people need, whether it's food, clothing, or shelter. Right? There's a need when it comes to diamonds, or a resource that we all have. So all these resources that Madeline was speaking about, people are coming to you for what you have gained in life, you know, and that can be a resource of a love as well, right? But people are coming to you for what you have and what you have gained, you know, for those particular resources. And it's very important also that we speak about this during the Seven of Hearts week, and that energy, and that you reflecting upon that as well. Six of Hearts Mercury, right? You reflecting upon your experiences, but you're reflecting upon that because they have you're their Pluto, right? So you're the Pluto card for the Seven of Hearts, and on top of that, the Seven of Hearts transforms into the Jack of Spades, and it has a Seven of Hearts Mars, a Jack of Hearts Mars, which someone was stating it can be a sacrifice through love, you know, and it may not be a sacrifice they want, you know, and also with that sacrifice, they can have sacrifices within relationships as well, which they don't want to do as well, because that Seven of Diamonds is Mercury. Let you ladies setting up all the pinpoints for me. I think you appreciate it. They have that Seven of Diamonds and Mercury. So between the Seven of Diamonds, Jack of Hearts, and transforming into the Jack of Spades, I think, and also Madeline has the Jack of Spades. They feel like, you know, they're not getting, I think, a equal amount of what they're giving out. You know, it's like I want the same amount of love, passion, and I don't want you to steal from me as well, right? I don't want you to use me in any type of way. I don't want to be a sacrifice where I'm constantly being used and abused, right, within my relationships, and you trying to take advantage of these resources that I may have gained in my lifetime. Because the Seven of Hearts, I'm not going to say King of Diamonds has an easier life, but I think reaching and gaining that value and getting over the emotional hurdles to even gain what you have is difficult for them. You know, as we were saying, the sevens, sometimes, well, what he didn't say, but sevens can have a hard lot in life. A lot of times, it can be seen as a hard lot in life. I
One of
think.
my one of my closest friends, uh, her name's Motherbug. She's a Seven of Hearts. She and I are traveling together. We're gonna meet in 2 days, and where she's coming to that moon dance that I go to every year. And we've been friends for a really long time. And the way we became really good friends is she provided me with like loving support that no one else has ever given me in the way that she gave it to me. Like I had broken my arm on a trip we both shared, and she literally got me dressed for like weeks. Like she really showed up. So we created a certain bond, and we had to kind of unravel and break out of the trauma bond of it in a certain level. But we have such a kindred type of, we call each other Sia. Like we have such like similar ways that we see things and see each other. Like it's really interesting. So, and I've learned so much in her reflection. And I often say to her, it's like, I just don't know if I could ever give as much as you give so freely. So here I am saying I'm a resource that people take from, but like she's so willing to give from such a beautiful place. Like it's not even like she's working to do it. Like with the animals, with the people, with the cooking, like she's a Libra one. She just really enjoys that. And it's not that I don't, but my mind is so strongly held by the things that I'm doing that I just don't even think to do it sometimes. I mean, because I'm busy kind of stuff. But so I honor that, we learned so much in the reflection of each other in those cards, and mine having that seven of spades. I feel like that's part of why, because I really have a lot of sevens. Sevens and nines are in my life in a lot of places, even though I have all those like, even cards. I have lots of odd cards in my life. And so I'm hearing you, Rashad. I'm hearing you too, Will. Just let us understand like how deeply intricate these things are, because it's, for me, it's so much about, can we know that liberation? Can I birth myself beyond the initial foundation to the pure spread, to live it in a different way? Because it's so easy to have a narrative that just repeats it over and over. And no matter whether you're giving or receiving, if you're repeating a heavy hearted narrative, you're not going to be feeling free or vibrant.
Yeah, and the Seven of Hearts, they can have that archetype of feeling like the martyr as well. Of
Yeah.
feeling. Gosh, I'm looking for a word. Someone's like trauma bonding, right? Where they are the victim. That victim mentality can happen. And I was thinking earlier, it does happen for the Seven of Hearts. It's like, you know the best players, warriors, and people that give advice are the people that have been through something. That can take their personal relationships and use it as an example to help and heal other. I think that's the Seven of Hearts type of way as well. Someone was saying trauma bonding, but they really do eventually reach that King of Hearts and Neptune, where they become examples rather than the victim.
Yeah, and she's maturing. She's gonna be 36 this year. So I've seen so much growth. I've known her since her 20s. And we shared uh a situation that we both got hurt in by the same person. So we did have that. Plus, she's helping me. We both got hurt. And we actually had to consciously like break away from each other, not talk about that anymore, change the subject, if you will. And then something else happened in her life that was even more dramatic than what we lived through. And I consciously pulled away and didn't get involved while she went through it. And it was you're like, how could you do that? And I said, I didn't want to bond with you in that same way again. Like, you had to come up with the way you're going to come through this and understand that these things are going to keep happening. And if we use each other in that way to kind of like bond over judgments, I have no interest in bonding over judgments. I want to bond over laughter. I want
Mm.
freedom. I don't need to be judged or be judging anyone at this point. Like, I don't know why everything happens, but I know that I'm responsible for my own frequency and being happy. And if I go with people down big dark roads and they think I'm their friend, then I have to know every single breath of it. I can't do that. It's not how I'm wired. It's not what I'm made to do. Like, I
Yeah.
can do it in the sessions 1 hour a week. I can track with people, but if it's like your bestie calling you all day, telling you this stuff, like, that's just, it becomes too heavy for me as a character.
No, for sure. It's definitely. I think that they go through traumatic situations. Not to say that all hearts are dramatic, but they can be pretty dramatic. And Will, what do you feel about they displaced that Eight of Hearts? So as far as numerology and the power of eight, even within and I was going to say psychology, but I think there's a psychological emphasis when it comes to eights as well. Am I mistaken? Will correct me. Because they sit in the Eight of Hearts house, which is their challenge. So that for me, when I see that, I can see abuse, trauma, and those type of things. And I also have a Two of Hearts neuron. This makes that bonding. But anything you want to say about that, Will?
Well, yeah. I think you like nailed a lot of aspects in there from numerically. Because when I'm looking at cause other things, I'm shifting gears and looking at something astrologically and then shift to another gear and looking at it numerically. So, the first thing that comes in with the ace of heart, and I think of that's the primary what they are born in, because it depends on, again, now I do utilize the book to Sacred Symbols of the Ancients by Edith Randall and Flores Campbell. And they actually kind of brought to light, it was my first, I guess, initiation into the cards, but it fits as studying them. I was aware of the cards because somebody brought that attention. Quick antidote story. And they introduced the playing cards, or the 52 cards. And, from that point then on, I wasn't able to access the literature at that time because things was different growing up in that era. Not now, things are accessible. But being that, going back to original point, the 7 and their 7 of heart coming in there, the 8 of heart seems to bring about an early kind of development that would require, not require, but a kind of a blessing with the 8. You're right, the 8 has that kind of authority, I guess you would say. But it also is an implement of time element because it does have the planet Saturn is associated with the 8. So when I look at that now, and then Mercury, they move on, to the 9 of hearts, which again is that Saturn square Saturn card on the life plane, which brings about there. But keep in mind the 7 of hearts, like you were saying, certain things about the abuse. Yes, that's a very profound point in which it can be happening at. It doesn't mean automatically that you can have that if you're once, born in that circumstance. But Saturn can bring elements of life very much real to you, and it can be harsh at times. But it's a thing, if you stick with it and come through it, it will mold you because, again, being you're a diamond and Madeline a diamond, you guys thrive on that pressure eventuality because you become from that cold to now in the rough, the diamond in the rough too becomes pressurized in there. And that takes a lot of time and pressure and a lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears. And we all have, to a certain degree, either diamonds in our life spread or a diamond somewhere in our displacement card, whether, AKA some people may use it as karma cards and what have you. But, and the 7 of hearts also is displaced the ace of spades, so there is a certain point. And then, you're dealing with the ace of spades and a 7. That brings a whole nother round to you, to the ball game, is how they experience this. And one of the reasons why I brought out with Bill Gates is that he is the October 28th of the 8, meaning 2 plus. Well, actually, the 26, my bad. Did I say 26? 26. But I think it's the 26, my bad.
Yeah.
Or it's the 28. I think it's the 26, but it's a 7 of hearts, I believe he is. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm doing juggling things in the head. But
yeah, no,
the point.
6 for the 7 hearts that day.
The 26, right. Okay. 26. So that 2 plus 6 is 8, right? Mm-hmm. So there you go. You see another again of the 8, and you see this is an 8 of hearts. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong again, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we see the 8 patterns. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is the 8, when you're talking about, I see the interplays of how these things interconnect and how they manifest through the person's life. But Saturn can bring a point of lens. If we're looking through the lens of Saturn, it can actually bring certain experiences with people of old or ancient stuff too, or that could be literature, that can be artifacts, or mainly this traditions and so forth. There's some things that stats with the 6 of hearts or 6 period, the status quo, and that's why I bring that into the reference. If that's kind of like answer the question to you or not,
No, yeah, I was just speaking about the 8 and the 8 of hearts, and the reflection upon the 7 of hearts sitting with that 8 of hearts, and I think discipline and time, is very important, as you were speaking about. I think Aquarius Maximus speaks about the seven hearts as the goat, right? And I think emotional maturity happens over time. It's and actually taking the advice and of other people. I think when you come into a life with such emotional power or strength, you want to exude that and project that, and take control or have control, you know, of your own personal thoughts, feelings, or wherever it may be, right? I think when it comes to like Saturn discipline, I work with children, so um, they're very reluctant as far as taking on the criticism and structure from their elders, right? Um, so I think that is something very important. Not saying that Seven of Hearts has that issue, because I think there's different people that Saturn in different places, so how they may take that could be a little different. But I think that is very important, because like I said, eventually they get to the King of Hearts and have complete emotional control, and are great leaders and speakers for other people, and showing and taking on the responsibility of having that power, using that control in a constructive way, right? Being leaders, thought leaders, or whomever, or being able to even give that control, or giving those advices. And also when it comes to Saturn, you were saying that as things become very real, right? So what I think of is like real application of how to gain emotional control as well. You were speaking about the sevens as being a very spiritual card. I think spirituality also comes from being able to know how to control those metaphysical aspects of yourself, because we leave sometimes, I think, astrology and those things up to chance. But I think when we look at the Queen of Spades, King of Spades, and all kings, there's application and the way that you do things to be a master of yourself. So the application, it goes into tools of emotions. And going into the sevens is the dietitian, or sometimes going into the diet, the gut and those things. So I think your eating habits and those things. Speaking about the Ace of Spades, and as well, this it's the messenger. J Lo was speaking about, it can be the messenger. And I always say I think, I don't even know if I posted this last week. It may have been during the Six Hearts week. I'm not gonna say it was during the Seven Hearts week, but I think to even receive messages or to be able to seek the advice, man, I had a week this week with the kids. Man, they all Valentine's Day is, and having candy during Valentine's Day for children, when they talk about conspiracies, that is one. Like, think about the aspect of being the Seven of Hearts week, right? And you're giving food. And I say that because we're talking about emotional control and the way that you control your emotions and your feelings. And I was getting into the aspect of food being a device, because having something that is practical, things of use, something that's very real. I think food is an aspect or a device that we use, to help us have emotional control, or that has more, effects on us than we um, may confess to, right? So I think that's a very important aspect. Also, Saturn is your health as well, right? So the Eight of Hearts, Seven of Hearts, those, and the Ace of Spades, you can look at it as far as your health. And also the Seven of Hearts can be emotionally drained as well from also giving and having other people around. So I think to have a clear temple, have a clear body, have a clear mind to receive the messages, to have the emotional control. I think the gut health and addictions is very important as well, when speaking about the Seven Hearts just in general. And I said, during Valentine's week, or Valentine's Day, I say week, but Valentine's Day is during the Seven of Hearts week, right? So giving candy, talking about being emotionally manipulative, then what they say about women to cooking, right? Wait till a man's heart is by the way of food. Did y'all?
No doubt.
Yeah, and so speaking about health and those things and Saturn, anything you want to say about that? I know Saturn is one of health as well, you know, and when it comes to pleasures and within the cards and food and addictions, the hearts is one of those. So if you look at even the seven of diamonds, which is Mercury to the seven of hearts, it sits Saturn, and it goes from Venus to Saturn. And even you look at Venus is pleasures as well, you know. So that the pleasures connected to the health, right? That Venus, Saturn placement.
Definitely, and the connection that you had laid out for us is pretty intense. We're looking at the seven of hearts. You're looking at, okay, the inbox slot is on a Venus roll and actually a Mercury column. So when I put those two together on an astrological thing, and I'm looking at it from communications, siblings, short trips. It deals with writing, communications, our early point of learning experience, and Mercury. And Venus has two folds. It rules as well as Mercury is the sixth house, which you're mentioning is diet. So you can see how the whole cliche, if you will. And Venus, it rules the second house and the seventh house, how we relate. And that's important. And that's one of the fundamental reasons why I brought introduction of detachment theory psychologically. It's like the first 6 months of a child that's bonding, or how they bond, if not with their caretaker. And they can relate to different, it's interesting reading. I mean, we're not going into it, but the attachment thing, and the reason why I'm using attachments is because hearts are known for, the feelings very specifically. So, and these things can get triggered by certain things that we're not aware of totally. So that's why I wanted to bring that in there. But yeah, the diet, of course, there's nowhere apparent. Now, the Venus in cahoots with Mercury can be a person that's a sweet charmer, could be a person that's very tactful in how they approach things. They can be that, or they can be manipulative. I mean, everything has the plus or the negative side if you're looking at it. So that's one thing else I like about that. The other balance thing about it is that you're dealing with the planet. Also, Neptune is in a way involved with that. And the reason why I'm using that is because of Neptune is considered in certain respect and fields community is the higher octave of Venus. So you get to see that kind of interplay with that. And being that the first displacement card for the seven of diamond is the ace of spade, which is in the life or in the spiritual is Mercury Neptune. You see, so I'm bringing back Neptune. So I feel that this is the combination, how you bring those interplays together with that. So enjoyable too in women as far as that. It depends on, and I'm not using this as a gender basis, but in women, the Venus is one of the representation of that. And that's how we relate. Now, it also deals with the kidneys and anatomically is one of the points in there. And you're saying that about the sugar and how it's triggering mechanism. Well, sugar is also coming under the influence of Venus, you know what I'm saying? So sweets in general, things of enjoyment, because it's the second house of what you value. And what we eat too is the second house, which is also Venus rule. I just wanted to put that in there too.
Yeah, they working some magic on us with these holidays, huh?
That's a case study in itself. Again, don't forget, part of this is, if not, a great portion of it is marketing and how this is designed. So there is, and my association with that is referencing back decades ago. There was a popular book called Subliminal Seduction, and it showed how the mind is stimulated through our subconscious level and not overriding our conscious level, how it's images, because imagery and so forth, again, going back, imageries with connection with the Neptune too as well, and with just the higher octave of Venus. So we can go into that from that level. But there is now is modern. I can't say if it's an offshoot because I haven't researched it to that point. For subliminal, it's been a study in marketing. They call it neural marketing. And the reason why I'm interested in that is saying bring that to fore because neural is referring to the neurons on the nervous systems. And that's also under Mercury rule, you see. So the stimulus and response, which we now go further back to Paul Bowles' dog, we can see how conditional or behavioral control. So of course, we're not crossing in over that bridge. I'm just saying, I just thought that was in context. And I don't want to get too far off subject, but I just wanted to bring that too in full perspective as well.
Matt, anything you wanted to say or add? I know that you was
I
saying.
had to run away. There was a project that my grandson was working on that I had to see. But what I'm finding is when Will comes into the conversation, it's so much more depth and research and astrology and houses. And when I hear all that, I'm like, whoa, because my brain doesn't hold that much stuff. But I remember that if anybody's dog who's ever talked to me for 30 years, so God knows, right? Everybody remembers what they remember. But but it's just so interesting to see us in those wheels, to see us living out those processes. Like that's what I was thinking about when I was listening. It's like, boy, we're all just really kind of connected to these stories and unpacking like a string, like just opening up, and every house and every story has a different way it's influenced. So in that way, I find it so fresh, but also a little daunting. And I know I'm going on, but it's like, but it's also simplifying, right? Because it's like, oh, well, you're like this because of that. Like I was talking to another astrologer last week, and he was saying that once he sees somebody's chart, he has like a whole understanding of the way they are, whereas we might say we know their card or look at the spread. But it's interesting to think how much we can know ourselves and teach other people about ourselves from these sciences. So that's kind of where I was. And I did hear the stuff about the food and things like that. And yeah, I hear all that. That sugar game is a real thing. But that's as much as I got, because some of it I did walk away for. So I don't know that I can reflect in a sincere way.
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, yeah, you're right. As far as I say this, probably not too often, but the more I've looked at these, this plate here, or this is what's behind us, everyone. I probably didn't say it, or probably don't say it enough. It's the life spread. So this is like the basis outside of the spiritual spread. Some people may refer to as the chaos spread, and is a representation of everyone's card layout and life path. As Will was referencing the diagonal path, there's a lot of different connections that you can see within this particular life spread, and also astrologically. And it has made me really understand astrology 10 times more better, because um, even just the subtle things I was speaking with between the Saturn and the Venus reference, and then the Neptune, the Queen of Hearts, transforming into the Seven of Diamonds. Looking at the spread will also tell you a lot about the person, and you can explain it from an astrological point or a card standpoint. So at first it would be overwhelming, but the more basics from astrology side that or that you get familiar with, it starts to open up the card life path and what is taking place, and maybe the whys that is taking place as well. And we got into the conversation of emotional attachments. I think before that, you were talking about um, people taking things from you, and the values and the things that we value, and the subtle attachments that we have, and trauma bonding and those things, right? And then I got into the whole, relationships, and then also it being the week of Valentine's. I say the week of Valentine's, not Valentine's Day, but Valentine's was this week. So I think it's all like Valentine's week, right? They might as well just change it to Valentine's week just for the people that are late or trying to figure out who they're in a relationship with can smooth things out to make up. Like you got to treat the side piece and everybody else that may be in an entanglement, right? With right, 7 of Hearts week, the week of entanglements.
We got to get some serious detangler. Spray the detangler. That's funny.
But also going into the attachments that we create, what came to my mind, and all the health references was also breastfeeding. I know that we may be everywhere, but I think that was something that kind of came up this week for me as well, and looking at attachments that we have, and in that Mercury period for the 7 of Hearts. And I'm not going to go too deep into that. That's just a little bit of food for thought for you all to kind of think about, as well, because when we get attached, and the first attachment that we have is to our mother, and how is that attachment created? A lot of times is I think through breastfeeding as well. And if you look at the Queen of Hearts, we was talking about food, we was talking about Neptune, you know, and the nervous system is also Mercury, but um, the attachment that we have, and the development of our
Yes.
health, I think, is very important through breastfeeding. And the Queen of Hearts transformed again into the 7 of Diamonds. But we're right at an hour. Let's go through the comments to see if there's anything.
Sure, sure, sure. I just want to have a quick note before you go into that. Two things I just want to additionally add. The first one, I think that you did a post on IG. Correct me, please. It was about, you were saying that they're using cards or portray cards through the media, which is nothing new in the whole scheme of thing of metaphysics, etc. The one of the things I would reference is, this is interesting. If you're familiar with, or the audience is, and I'm sure they are, is the BMF series that's on. So initially, what attracted me, because I got hooked into it, from there initially. So I just wanted to see curiosity. It's not so much for the glamorize and lifestyle, because there's always, the give and take thing. And you're dealing with a Neptune energy too, because of, drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the first episode series, I guess, yeah, that first series that started it, the brothers, that's kind of the main characters in there, they came out, what attracted me was they did it in symbology and through the numbers. They call themselves I'm not going to be exact on that, but it's something like the 50 Street Boys or 50, Block Boys sector. And when it got to me, I said, oh, the number 50 corresponds. I'm just showing you how, kind of inkling how my mind works in certain patterns. So the numerology of the soul, which is important, we're looking at the solar values of cards, which you guys probably addressed. But when you look at the solar value, you're looking at the Jack of Spade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the 50. Now, what happened? Now, if you look at because there's another part, and not only you look at the numbers, you're looking at the pips, meaning how the formations are shaped, and that's done face cards, the Jack, the Queen, and King, of course, and not excluding the Joker, but that's the Joker is the Joker, right? So, there are 3 cards in the suit cards, face cards, that show only profile, meaning it shows one eye on there. So the 3 cards are King of Diamonds, no pun intended, Madeline, the Jack of Spade, and the Jack of Hearts, right? So here we go.
What those 3 cards are, because I didn't totally get what you said there. What is you naming those 3 cards for? So I have 2 of them. I'm more interested, right?
Well, the reason why I'm mentioning it because when you look at, I look at all things considering, even the colors of the card, the lights and dark, and that's another aspect when you're going forth and looking and reading to get further insight to this sojourn of life, right, so to speak. There's three cards, the face cards. This is only in the face cards, meaning that there are kings, jacks, and queens, right? Well, if you look at the cards, and it's out of the book, I forgot the author's name, but it's called Symbology. And he goes into a thorough, detailed analysis, if you will, of the cards, which enhances your experience or not. People don't have to really go down the road, but you can always, next best thing, hire an expert in that, and they can give you further, facilitate that to you. The King of Diamonds, if you look at the card, you think that you're looking at all kings and they all have heads, faces, but not all of them are showing their full face, meaning they don't show to the left eye and right eye. Now, if you look at that, you'll see the King of Diamonds is showing a profile.
Yeah, one
so
eye.
they're not
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right. So does the Jack of Spades.
Mm-hmm.
And so does the Jack of Hearts. Now, that can open the doors for other things, and it may be controversial or something, but anyway, but what I'm looking at it is just the physical characteristics and how it's portrayed. And I'm saying, okay, maybe let's run this theory through its course, so to speak. So what I found out through looking at I'm saying, okay, I said, that's the one-eye Jack. One of the brothers gets damaged and actually wears a patch over his eyes and has that. Hence, you see the one-eyed Jack. Hence, you see the 50 Street or 50, whatever the game. Hence, you see the solar arc. I mean, the solar value. I'm thinking astrologically, folks. And you'll see that portrait. So I brought this into because Rashad asked, can people, feed them, give them some feedback or some examples. That's just one of my pursuits. There's another one that's kind of really, to me, obvious, but I didn't even look at it that way until later on, because it's always a development thing, and we have to be patient with ourselves primarily. So that's what I wanted to say. Now, the last thing I want to say before you get into the comments, Pluto has emerged again back in there, but it's not going to be totally in there. Well, okay, let's just leave it at that. Pluto is in Aquarius. Now, Pluto, you can have a laundry list. There's other things. There's transformation. It's life and death essential. There's power, right? Just to show that there's just, and that's just a very tip of the iceberg. We got in Aquarius, the sign. So astrologically, you can put these things together and test it out for yourself. Look at Aquarius deals with vision. It deals with society at large. It can deal with humankind or mankind or whatever way you want to slice that. And it deals with organizations, groups. So I'm going to put this together impromptu. You put Pluto, sign of power, Pluto in the sign of Aquarius group. This, and Pluto deals with shifts of power or power following that. Pluto groups can be powerful or transformative in their aspects through this transit of Pluto and Aquarius. So look forward to that. Now, I don't only mean that. It can be scientists to be groups. Or groups can be in any form of that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. That was my tidbit for there. Sorry for the long city route, but that's it. That you continue. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. You find that it's all still relevant to the Seven of Hearts week, especially the Jack of Spades I was referencing earlier. It has those two Jacks in Mars, and then the other Jack is the transformation, which the Seven of Hearts transforms into the Jack of Spades. So like you said, it being the one-eyed Jack, man, I have a lot of experience between that one-eyed Jack. Especially for me, I think Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn. So the Jack of Spades is Saturn for me. So it's definitely vertical Saturn for me. So it's definitely taught me a lot of lessons. I think Seven, three of diamonds, definitely have to watch out from people also like the seven of hearts, from people trying to take advantage of them, feeling slighted, betrayed, whatever it may be. Also, again, Madeline, you have the jack of spades and Jupiter, so your experience with it is also important as far as betrayal and people using you or feeling slighted, you know. And also I think there's a bit of self-sacrifice I think that the jacks can also have, because jack of spades a lot of times is in it for the art and maybe not the money. But if it is in it for the money, there may be a selfish type of feel, having a lot of access to a lot of things. Like you said, you have access. You tend to feel privileged, I think, for some people in certain instances, So always there's a double consciousness or double um, reference or side that you can look at all the cards. There's the high side and the low side. Go ahead, Madeline.
Sometimes I perceive that part of me to be paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I'm just like, who cares? Like, whatever people do, they do. Like, it doesn't matter. Do you know? Like, why are you paranoid about it? But because I don't know if run's the right word. I'm pretty psychic. I feel a lot of stuff. I pick up on a lot of things, so I can sense it when somebody's kind of like meeting me in a way that's more about like, well, I don't really want to deal with this, but I want that, so I'm going to do this. And you're like, ew, what are you doing? Like, don't do that. Like, so it's an interesting thing. And I'm ironically, my madrina is a jack of spades, so I'm going to the moon dance. And for the first time in all the times that she's been my godmother, she's really nurturing me and helping me feel very settled as a grandmother and an elder and stuff like that. And it's kind of a little tricky for me to appreciate it without wondering what the ulterior motive is. So I think part of what I'm asking to be cleared of in this letting go of my six of hearts kind of childhood fears is, I think both my parents were a little bit more protective, don't trust the other guy, and paranoid. And I don't know that I so much feel that way, but I might have been taught that, because when people sometimes do try to be kind to me, I don't know that I always receive it without wondering what they're doing and why they're doing it. Like, what's their motivation, which is probably, my protective system, right? Learned or otherwise. So it's interesting. And of course, hearing what you're saying about the king and the jack and looking one way. And I thought that part where somebody said the king of spades looks to the left and the others to the right, that's very interesting too. That there's something about, that would become part of your personality. If you're not necessarily seeing the whole picture, you're going to be a little bit wondering what's going on over there, because I can't see over there. I mean, thankfully, as a mother, I have eyes in the back of my head, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm curious about that. So for sure don't want to hold any more like insecurities or paranoia around liberation that's so inevitable at this time for my character and my age and stage. And I'm happy to hear how the cards can be part of what creates that. But I also know that it becomes part of your personality too, because in my experience, once you start running something in your narrative and you repeat it a few times, next thing you know, it's got legs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to digress one moment again. Pardon the interruption. Do I have permission?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted interesting notes when Marilyn said that she feels a psychic. I came to that conclusion figuratively through just looking at her numerical system. And she's born on the 2nd, and twos of any month are naturally born. Now we all, don't let it get twisted. We all have psychic abilities, but some are more pronounced. And with the twos, they actually can manifest that very quickly, among other things. Now, and again, that's why I recommend Lloyd's book, Lloyd Strayhorn, Numbers and You, to get full and in depth about that. If you haven't, or take his course on Udemy. And I'm not putting a plug in, but I have to give credit when credit is due, and I like to. My agenda is try to spread the wealth around to whatever it is to those who can generate that. And The last thing was that she was talking about that the paranoia. I thought that was interesting too, that she brought that in. But and this is the last thing really. We're on the subject of the 7 of hearts and showing synchronicity. I may approach that. And I'm looking at the numbers in my head of Madeline's birth number, her month, and her date. So concurrently, I use a system where numerology, I go from birthday to birthday, not entitlement of the year. You can, if you do your thing. She is actually going through a 7 right now. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And that's one of her numbers. If you look at Lori's, is 2 and 7. So when you see those numbers come up.
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
having Diamond's year. That's all true. What you're saying is true. I know that.
Okay. That's all. I mean, that's how
I
I'm
want to
saying.
know what you have to say about it. I'm not trying to cut off the system. I'm just
Yes,
saying.
you did. You cut me off my Mercury card. Let me stop. I'm teasing. No, what I wanted to say is in genuine. There's another thing with that 2, and you're born under the 2 astrological sign, which is Cancer and the Moon. The only reason I'm bringing that out, usually I don't go on blast with people unless they with permission, sacred to, that would be a point that I'm saying that you are like a double super sensitive. I would call the word from psychic, which is a point of psych and sensitivity. So that's one of the things. Now, another thing that's very people with strong 2s like you and everything, that's also influenced because Cancer rules the stomach. They have to just diet. And I think that was uncanny that Rashad brought that out about diet and food and everything. But that's my take on it. But when she said about the other astrologer, yeah, well, get your chart in front of Ra Ku. And God knows that you have somebody I had cameras in your house, so forth to speak. Excellent, phenomenal cosmophysician / astrologer. That's all. Give a free plug to him, but a lot of other people out there.
Yeah, and I was shaking my head when you were talking about the numbers, and because someone stole my book. Someone stole my Lord Straight.
You better watch out. It may have been that one-eyed Jack. Let me stop.
Right. No, she definitely was a mystic. I can't say that. She was definitely a mystic, and there was some health thing. Yeah. But yeah, so that Jack of Spades was Jack of Spades in that week. But yeah, what was I going to say? No, the 50 Boys and your reference to Jack of Spades and One-Eyed Jack. Yeah, most definitely. I remember you mentioned that. Again, that can come from someone stealing, taking something from you. So I can probably, of course, we probably all would guess. He got shot during the altercation, or someone being jealous. That's another form of the 7 of Hearts.
It was assassin. I just remember the thing, but I'm just saying, this uncanny how you can make those comparisons and understanding the numerical or the solar value and using that in cards / astrology, whatever. I just brought that attention. I know we're off putting right now from the 7 of Hearts, but it's in the scheme of things, it is, so that's
it's the 7 of Hearts transformation. It's the Jack of Spades.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I said it's right on topic, because the 7 of Hearts transformation is the Jack of Spades. So, and the 7 of Hearts, one of the things is betrayal. People being jealous of you, betrayal. So they definitely have to have boundaries. Watch the company you keep, type of thing. Feeling slighted, people stealing from you. Or all of those. That comes with that energy as well. Something else.
7 of Hearts sister is such an incredible artist, and does it seemingly like with ease. Like everything she touches is just so beautiful. She just draws when people are speaking and puts it into pictures what people are saying. So she has a beautiful way about her. But she went to an art school, and that was what she talks about, is the jealousy between the other people, and how her being so empathic and wanting to be helpful, but then experiencing all this jealousy back and not knowing how to navigate it.
Mm-hmm. And the artist is a Jack of Spades. You know,
Mm.
a lot of hearts, you know, can go into artistic ventures as well. Also, before we close out, the Donald Trump released his shoe this week. And within the Seven of Hearts, they have the Seven of Diamonds, Mercury. So fashion, clothing, those things out of that Neptune we were talking about can be drugs as well, but also with the Queen of Hearts can be fashion. It can be all the things that, like I said, that we find valuable. You know, food, clothing, and shelter can come out of that. So a lot of times you can see Seven of Hearts being fashionistas, you know, into jewelry, clothing, you know, looking the best, smelling the best. That Neptune smell senses and those things can come out of that as well. So yes, the Jack of Seven Hearts can be the artist. A lot of times they find themselves in an artistic type of expression or expressing themselves through arts or clothing or wherever it may be. So you may look and try to see how they feeling, see how they're dressed, you know. But a lot of times they do have a great personality where they may even hide any faults as well until you really get into a conversation. And like I said, they become vulnerable, you know, and that sensitivity is also help them develop their psychic abilities. And they may go into mysticism, you know, tarot, the cards, or any type of mystic system could be good for them as well. Also, and like I said, the intuitive psychicness can Neptune, that Mercury, Neptune, Ace of Spades is their supporting karma because the Ace of Spades sits in their regular house, which is Mercury, Neptune. So they do have psychic abilities. A lot of times you were talking about the intuitiveness for the King of Diamonds. Also, the Seven of Spades, Seven of Hearts have those senses of intuition and I'll call it intuitive sensitivity sometimes, you know, and sensitive to the emotions and feelings of everyone else, you know. So you kind of see what's going to happen next, or you look to what's going to happen next. Sometimes I think, and trying to figure out why somebody is doing certain acting, feeling a certain way, you know. You start asking yourself questions, you know, so that intrigues the psyche.
Well,
To
there's also the way that in our water, you know, like, I mean, water picks up things, right? Water
Mhm.
remembers things. We're made of water, right? So, like Will said, I'm by no means the only psychic. We're all psychic. We're all intuitive. And it's our waters in our body that senses things a little before they're coming or gets a sense of what's going on as a need the preparation. The animals know when it's going to rain or snow. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of built into us a little bit. Two things I want to say. I want to talk to you about what Danielle brings in about what's the difference between the two-eyed and the one-eyed in the Kings. And there's a couple other comments in there that might be interesting. And if we could just touch on what we might see in the Eight of Hearts. I won't be here for the next 2 weeks, and I'd be loving to hear a little bit of what we think might be in the Eight of Hearts and Non-Hearts week, because I won't be here for those weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we're running out of time, so you can tell me yourself another time, or I can just read about it or think about it myself. I'm just trying to push this forward. You know what I mean?
Oh, you got carte blanche. You know you can work with the net. There's power in groups, Pearl. Anyway,
No,
I'll start off real quick.
yeah.
The clock is ticking, and the difference between the one eye, it is opens another door in terms because it's not to do justice. It would give a little bit more thorough analysis. I would go into more in depth, but just to keep in mind when you're looking at cards and symbology, they can reference. You can look at it from one eye, the two jacks, heart, and the Jack of Spade or the King of Diamonds. It can be focused. You can look at it as one eye open, one eye. It's just like when you're closing and you're looking through the old days, you used to look through a telescope or you had to close one eye and sync the other one. They can be focused or single pointedness. The other side is when it's associated because these are archetypes that accumulated over symbolism. So when you're looking, there's the old saying, and you can get a lot of treasure from the old saying. They say, look to me eye to eye, or I'm not seeing you eye to eye. Okay, think of that as there's always something that's not met. And the meaning behind that is that I'm not seeing everything what I'm seeing. So more or less. So when you see a Y, there is a point where there could be something withheld, not maybe intentionally or fraudulently, but it is something that they can be used. That's the other side of the script. Just going to touch base on that. Rashad, be my guest. Do what you want to with that.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. Just there's also other references. What's funny is I was in class, and while everyone was doing what they was doing, I found a deck of playing cards. I was like, "Look at me finding a deck of playing cards in the classroom." I sniffed that out, right? And I laid out all the kings and the queens, and started organizing them in the way that they were facing. You know, so it's interesting that's a conversation, right? But yeah, going just I mean, you explained it beautifully, just going into something being withheld, not seeing something very clearly. I'll call it tunnel vision a lot of times, which can be good for you or bad for you. I think a lot of times tunnel vision can lead to you pointing out something or finding a specific detail that no one else can see, right? Especially like artists, they see things that other people can't see, that they're able to sniff out and create things because they have a very keen eye, um, but also being open or seeing everyone, as having both eyes open, being fully aware of everything around you is also beautiful in the sense of being able to discover, find, and take care of everyone and see a bigger picture, and not being so selfish possibly, or focus on one's own personal agenda. So you're able to kind of open up and see things for what they are, and see things clear, um especially like when someone has an agenda, it may be, like I said, my experiences with the jack, and the reason that I got jacked was because I was so focused and pinpointed on something that I desired, which was material value. I was looking at trying to gain my own, I wouldn't say for my own selfish reasons, because I always have worked with family members and other people around me, but so it was for a good cause, but I knew for my own selfish gains, I may have to work with people that may not have been, you know, in it for the betterment of me. They was in it for their own selfish reasons as well. So it's like it was a sword fight, right? Who can have one up on another, was the fight. So of course, I didn't get my eye taken out, but I almost got a finger blown off. so so the, so when you're working with, being the one eyes, and working with having tunnel vision, you can find yourself in a selfish state, possibly. We're not seeing things clearly because you have a own personal gain or personal agenda. You know, but yeah, that's kind of it. So, in closing, I don't want to keep us here too long. I think this was a pretty great conversation. Really danced all around that seven of hearts. A couple things that we may have missed, but of course, these conversations are always for to be open for further conversation and inspiration for other things, other topics, maybe down the line as well. Or like I said, if sometimes focusing on a few things can lead create a better light, instead of looking at everything. So yeah, let me go through the comments. Thank you all for joining and attending and creating the conversation as well. We definitely reflect and are able to kind of gain and bounce off of you all's idea. Lo saying what is kind of ironic. I was starting a tarot deck from photos I took of the sky, Ace of Spades, wanted to sit on the Ace of Swords. Then woo, when I started to see much, I stopped. That fear with Ace of Spades, right? Don't get scared. Look through the veil, right? Seeing, we're trying to see what's on the other side, which we all get the little look. Make that, I think that's very relatable with the two of clubs, Ace of Spades. But yeah, Will, you was talking about something earlier. I think the essence of Neptune, and being working with digital or media, forms of media or communicating messages, those things, possibly. I think that was the reflection.
Oh yeah, yeah. If that was referenced, because I think it was from last video, it does have a reference with software, and it also has essential with immersive technology, virtual, augmented reality. Yes, if that's the reference point, that I'm not slightly where they want to go, but these are the things I would recommend if you got a strong Neptune in your chart. You can actually see that manifest, and it doesn't mean that you're not, expertise. We all have our own expertise, so to speak, and that Neptune is inclusive. Now, it also deals with medical too. I mean, Neptune. I just use that because it's trending and it's for that win. But you'll look at the impact of how Neptune works. And Neptune with that also, to me, that's just only me, has a connection with behind the scenes, which is a 12th house, which is ruled by Neptune. Or Neptune can be conjunct or aspecting the person's Venus, where they can profit at. So you can link up things with that. But that would be another conversation in itself, just to be short and simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hopefully that's answering the comment.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's interesting. I never seen or heard anyone reference that Neptune factor as far as technology. Usually they speak about it from an Aquarius standpoint, but also I do know there's medical gains, information, knowledge, and technology that comes from the Neptune. I've heard as well, so I can't say I haven't completely, but yes. But yeah, that's also very interesting to the Ace of Spades because the Two of Clubs, which is in the Uranus line, is Uranus Saturn. So I think technology, building things is very important for the Two of Clubs, who naturally sits Mercury, Neptune. So tech and those things I think is very important. As you can see, I think another reference is the who does Tesla? What's his name?
Oh, that's my man from X, Twitter. What's that? This.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, I think he's a Two of Clubs, if I'm not mistaken. I could be corrected, but a lot of times they go into space technology and those things. They very always thinking on the deep end, right? I think so. Yeah, let me see if there's anything else. So don't he help me? Oh, thank you. Sweets. Someone was talking about the emotional eating and the candy. Electric Lady. And that Seven of Hearts, most definitely we touched on that, which was pretty important the week of Valentine's, right? Let me see if there's anything else you all want to add as I go through the comments, or any comment that stuck out in particular.
Well, I'm dreaming and scheming with Donna, and I believe that we're going to also do a weekly YouTube, and more than likely it's going to be on Friday afternoons because it actually works better for both of us to not give up our Sundays. So that's dreaming and scheming, and I hope to be inviting wisdom from all places to the family card table to look at people's families and their cards and what they might be learning together and why they came together and such like that, and even things that you can do. So if you're a family who would like to be one of the conversations, you're welcome, here or there. And we also have some other ones coming in, and that'll be the end of March. And otherwise, we continue to do Circles Touching Circles, which is sisterhood. If anybody's inclined to want to grow in sisterhood from other circles to learn about each other, we do that at Growing with the Seasons. And I'm leaving for the Moon Dance Prayer, and I will be sure to pray for all of us to come to clarity and peace inside of us so that when we communicate, we're not so easily talking from our programming, but maybe more from the wisdom and the innocence that lives within us.
I appreciate you all. Another really profound Northern Lights. She was talking about the King of Spades, that Seven of Hearts. Sugar can kill you with the Seven of Hearts Pluto for the King of Spades. That's a very interesting. Go ahead, Will.
No, I just want to say also great point you brought out about technology and Uranus and connection with Uranus. Yes, it does. I see what happens. There is cycles of planets, right? The last one was a major one that happens about 172 to 74 years approximately. And it's the planet Neptune with Uranus, and it happened in Capricorn. So once you see a planet, and there's a whole subject just on cycles, those planets merge again, and every time it does affect when those two they trend social, economically. I forgot social, economically, financial is one of the key points. Is the third one that lose my mind right now. But when those two happen every 100, you'll see a pattern, and this is one of the reasons why I brought Neptune in me. But Neptune is like think of Neptune as there's software and there's hardware. Neptune is the thing you can't see or touch in there. You can relate that to digital switches and so forth. Well, that's the imprint that those two match together and how we're experiencing. Then right after then, historically, that happened in 1993. You've seen the big boom of the internet went from what to line type to GUI interface with the visual. And you can see with imagery, you can see the Neptune. That's just my case in point short.
No, I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, that looking at those two cycles and how they coincide, very looking more to kind of track that and see how that plays out, especially with, like you said, Pluto going into Aquarius. It's stationed in Aquarius right now, right? Okay, so I appreciate you all. I think we're going to close it out there. Looking forward to the further discussions around family and that Friday conversation. Make sure you all stay in tune. If you have any other questions, make sure that you contact us all. I believe it's not showing now, but
This too here being that the Gemini people or people in placement Gemini, Jupiter is going to emerge.
We can't hear you. Went out for some reason. I don't know why. Hello?
Oh, I was saying Gemini people got placement in Gemini. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Did he go away? I want to hear that Gemini thing. Come on, we both got that, Rashawn.
Meeting planets, not just on, because we all have the 12 planets. Chart line with Uranus this year. And that's always a signal point of a 13-year cycle that augments technology too. Just using the genre of money.
You going out, Will? Your signals may be bad.
Yeah, my signal's bad. So another time, folks.
Okay. I guess we're gonna leave it there. All right.
Thank you, Rashawn. Thank you, Will.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you all. We'll speak to you all next week. If you have any questions, just let us know. There you go. So our selective social media, growing with the seasons, is Gracious, Madeline. And someone's referencing you as Gina, but that's Madeline. We probably don't mention our names enough. So,
hey, she got that dual identity.
It's the Jack of Spades in the right.
I guess so. Groisha is the artist. This is true. She's the secret rapper. There's a secret rapper inside of me. Someday she'll be super free. I can't wait to meet her.
And Will's YouTube. How you pronounce that? YEKNUN. YouTube. It says YouTube.
Yeah, you did it right on the first try. Woohoo! Okay. You did it fine. You did it fine. You did excellent. And thanks, Alan, for subscribing. I didn't want to exclude you. I appreciate y'all and you. Because I am your Mercury card, so you got to watch out for me, I guess. No, let me stop.
I'm learning to listen to you. You have a very different way of speaking than what I usually hear, and you're very much. One of the things I picked up today is between you, Rashad, and my husband. He's the King of Diamonds, Six of Hearts. Man, y'all like to research, man. Y'all like to research. Like, you go deep. Like, you got so much going on in there, and I'm not against it, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know. That's that. I get, I think it's that one-eyed focus part of me that it's like, if I go too far down into those pipes, I won't be driving the car. You know? But so I appreciate the research and how I'm surrounded by it, and I trust it. I know it comes from purity, so I'm just learning to listen to the depth of where you go. It took me a little bit with Rashad too to really understand how deeply he looks at things, but I for sure meet it as deep as well, just from a different place. I do it more intuitively and spiritually.
And also, before we leave out, he was talking about the Aquarius aspects, and someone reminded me of talking about the Two of Hearts. But the Two of Hearts is also Uranus for the Seven of Hearts. So I think that also, as far as card wise, that's important for the Seven of Hearts, is really looking at expounding, getting advice, speaking with other people as far as on a spiritual level, getting one-on-one coaching and advice from someone, or just seeing things from a different perspective as well. Because you do have the King of Diamonds, Pluto, which can be the one-eyed king. So you want to make sure that you open yourself up, even though you could be focused on on your own skill sets and gifts, open yourself up as far as getting advice or emotional counseling from other people, or just being around other spiritual groups, putting yourself in a group of people as well. So, but before we keep going on and on, let me thank you all for coming. I'm sure we can be here for another hour or two, and we'll see you all next week with the Eight of Hearts. Oh yeah, I forgot Grace said she's not going to be here, so we may be able to see what we can do. Oh, you said you leave today?
I'm leaving today, but tell me about the Eight of Hearts.
Okay.
What should I expect, Rashawn? Going into a whole big adventure. Come on, prepare me. Give me the research. Give me the notes.
But I mean, looking at the Eight of Hearts, we kind of spoke about the eights, the power of eights of being within what Will did, being within groups as well. I think socializing, I think, is an aspect of the eights. Having a power, authority, emotional control, of course, but also goes into the Seven of Hearts, fighting your own self-doubt, fighting self-fear, getting over your own fears and looking at everything not as a sense of betrayal, but also, the sense of servitude and sacrifice that happens within that as well, so not being in your own way or blocking your own blessings, I think, is one of those things. And letting go of having or wanting control or authority all the time, being open, being vulnerable to other people. There's also the Eight of Hearts has the Six of Clubs, Six of Spades, so being open to the voice and messages and taking responsibility of your own words, being conscious, but not too self-conscious where it grows insecurity, right? So, but definitely understanding the voice and the power within your voice, and not creating the same sad story over and over, and using your voice as a helpful message and inspiration to other people. I think is very important. Of course, the Eight of Hearts transforms into the Three of Diamonds, me, right? So creating an opportunity, and also looking at technology or having this inventive spirit, I think is very important. But financially, looking at the financial opportunities that can come about maybe from socializing or being around other people, working a crowd, I think using your emotional power, using your personality, and being able to work a crowd, not necessarily being a performer, but having that emotional power and control and being able to persuade other people to make them feel good. A lot of times I look at the Eight of Hearts as maybe Reiki, so go off, get a massage, make yourself feel good, indulge into the sensual or sexual pleasures, maybe this time around, or anything that make, create joy for yourself. Anything you want to say, Will?
Basically, I was good. I just wanted to say we referenced the Eight of Hearts. It's a Neptune Saturn. So if you bring those two together and
Jupiter,
a
Neptune,
form, I'm sorry, Jupiter Neptune, right, correct. You have the wish card, or rather the wish planets. Jupiter can build fulfillment and sense of giving you gifts or talents or excessiveness. And Neptune can also be the fantasy or the ideals that's coming to you. Now, in the worst format, it can bring delusional things, but mostly we're going to uptick that. It has a charm or charisma too with Neptune and Jupiter, right? And be mindful, my advice, of how you communicate, because that is also what is termed the Playboy card too, but they can do certain things. So on the week, just like last week was the Six of Hearts, evaluate what kind of connections you made or endured that may have to be reevaluated to a certain extent. But with the hearts or the eight, we're going to look at the point of being mindful of how you communicate. You could get you could be careful what you ask for syndrome. That could be another accentuated thing there too. But can be utilized as law of attraction and bringing wish fulfills, and that's what I mean by the wish. Not the card, but just wish fulfillment element with that. So it's very much structured, and you have with that Eight of Hearts the power to communicate, or the power to love. That's like one of Jimi Hendrix records, The Power of Love. You could actually do a lot more indicated with that.
No, yeah, most definitely. Thank you for that summary as well. Definitely the power of love, and also healing. As I was talking about betrayals and those things, healing those insecurities within inside yourself. So definitely a healing type of power and a healing type of love. Can come about from this energy also. And definitely using your intuitiveness, watching the things you say, as you said, the Six of Clubs, Six of Spades. So taking responsibility for your words, actions, and making other people take responsibility. So within that can be healing, letting things go as well. Like I said, insecurities or anything. I think sevens is a self-reflection a lot of times. So sometimes you have to let go of, maybe you may not look the best or you may not feel the best, but once you transform those emotions, you can transform a lot of things inside yourself and become a lot more happier, about who you are and what you are. So standing on who you are, standing on business, as they say these days, and allowing growth and healing to take place. So definitely appreciate it. I'm gonna close out. If you all have any questions, again, hit us on the selective platforms, and I'm looking forward to the Fridays and any other conversations we'll have. So appreciate it, y'all. Thank you. Yes, meditation. And close. All right. All right. Well.